Genesis 38. At that time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hira. There Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and lay with her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son who was named Er. She conceived again and gave birth to a son and named him Onan. She gave birth to still another son and named him Shelah. It was at Kezib that she gave birth to him. Judah got a wife for Er, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so that Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Lie with your brother's wife, and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to produce offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he lay with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from producing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death also. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up, for he thought he may die too." Just like his brothers, so Tamar went to live in her father's house. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Timnah to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hira the Adullamite went with him. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as his wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." "And what will you give me to sleep with you?" she asked. "I will send you a young goat from my flock." She said, "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you? Your seal and its cord, and the staff in your hand." She answered. So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Abdullamite in order to get his pledge back from the woman, but he did not find her. He asked the man who lived there, "Where is the Shurine prostitute who was beside the road at Enaim?" "There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her. Besides, the man who lived there said, 'There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here.'" Then Judah said, "Let her keep what she has, and we will become a laughing stock. Laughing stock. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you didn't find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death." As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law, "I am pregnant by the man who owns this," she said. And she added, "See if you recognize those seal and cord, and stop this hour." Please remember, this is an important place because of the Hebrew literature. It's I will explain about later the skill, the literary skill. But remember this one. See this one, verse 25. As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law, "I am pregnant by the man who owns this," she said, and she added, "See if you recognize whose seal and cord, and stop this hour." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah, and he did not sleep with her again." Then when the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand. So the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, "This is one came out first." But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "So this is how you have broken out." And he was named Perez. Please remember the name Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was given the name Zerah. Hebrew literary skills is very interesting. I said the having a sexual relationship with his father-in-law actually she got some evidence. Yes, you had a relationship with me. She did. But 37, this is 38, 37, there is a C there. Chapter 37, 32. This is Korean. I should read it in English. He recognized it and said, okay, 32. They took the ornamented robe back to their father and said, we found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe. Here says see. See, it's a word place in Hebrew literature. So, and also interesting thing is why now it's the start of Joseph's story, but from the 37th chapter, but certainly Judah's story come out. And then go 39, go back again to Joseph's story, and then continue. This is the only one interruption. So chapter 37 and 39, between 38 is completely different story, later story about Judah. Okay, 39, chapter 39. It continues from 37, the Joseph's story. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, actually, I said before, its English name is Potiphar, but original Hebrew, the text is Potiphar. So I would like to pronounce it Potiphar, it's much easier. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of the Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. Here in chapter 39, the Lord, later I will explain about the English translation. This is the New International Version. Is the Lord is a full capital L, full capital O, full capital R. D is later is Exodus. The Moses meet the God, and Moses asked the God, Sinai mountain. Moses when meet God, the God said, Moses, go to the Egypt and then bring my people. Then Moses, former prince of Egypt, conqueror of the Mediterranean Sea, said, I'm nobody. How can I please excuse this implant is supposed to be made just before my surgery, but I think anyhow, when I recover fully, I will have just only one inside the one implant installed again. Okay, the Lord, I will explain later. This is the identity of the God of Israel. So they do not pronounce God's name. So when God said to Moses, go to Egypt and take my people out there, then Moses said, to whom that shall I tell them, release the people of Israel? At that time, God said, so that is I am who I am. It's in the New Testament, the Revelation is to go explain the New Testament, all this explain about the Yahweh's name appeared in the Mount Sinai as I am the beginning and the end, like this. So I will talk later about anyhow the English LORD, all capital one, is the Asher I am who I am. That is first of all letters, the translation. That is the Lord. Okay, continue. Chapter 39, verse 2. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. It's important we have to know that. We have to know the God. We have to know who sent us here, who sent me here. There should be some purpose. There is no accident or incident whatsoever. There is providence of God. And then continue. When his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So he left in Joseph's care everything he had. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. With me in charge, he told her, "My master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am." My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, she refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. One day he went into the house to attend his duty, and none of the household servant was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants. "Look," she said to them, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make a sport of us." What is a sport of us? He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story, that Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make a sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and then ran out of the house. When his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. Here again emphasized the verse 21. The Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did.